What's up? This is Andy. I'm here to give you some of my favorite selections as we enter the Pick'em contest on No House Advantage this Sunday for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. We're going to be taking picks from two games. We got the Bengals at the Bills, and we got the Cowboys at the Niners. If you haven't taken part in this contest before, here's how it works. It's player props and fantasy rolled into one. No House Advantage is going to show you player props associated with the player. Like the first one we're going to do today is Gabe Davis. It shows you 54.5 receiving yards. If you like that one, you can go over, under. You don't like it, you leave it out, choose a different player. The more that you get right, the higher you rise in the standings and get closer to that top prize. They also offer a Versus the House contest where if you get 5 player props correct, it doesn't have to be just NFL. It could be across all sports. If you get them correct, you net up to 21 times your money. It's a fantastic website. Like I said, it's fantasy and player props in one easy-to-use platform. And if you register a new account using the link in the description of this video, they're going to match your first deposit up to $100. So you throw in $100, they'll give you $100, and you get started on some of these contests. I told you about Gabe Davis. They got his over listed at 54.5. I'm happily going to take the over. As I kind of projected in these last couple of weeks, the Bills were getting ready for a playoff run where they're going to need to throw the ball. Well, we've seen the weapons kind of diminish this year with random injuries, so it's really down to Diggs, yes, and then Gabe Davis. And we saw both of them go over 100 yards last week. When you're playing the Cincinnati Bengals, and you saw this in those first drive or two that the Bills had the ball when they played a couple of weeks ago, they were pushing it through the air. I'm looking for that to continue this week, and Diggs has got a higher total. Give me the lower total with Gabe Davis. You're talking about in the 50s. His total is set in the 50s in a game where Josh Allen is projected to have over 280 passing yards. I think there's going to be plenty to go around for Gabe Davis as well. So give me the over on receiving yards for Gabe Davis. Then the rest of my picks are actually going to come from the Cowboys-Niners game. The first one I'm going to start with, it should be no shock to anybody after watching him run last week, the week before that, the week before that, and the week before that. Ezekiel Elliot, I'm going to take the under on his rushing yards. He's going up against the #1 defense in the NFL, and clearly Tony Pollard looked way more explosive last week. And if they're trailing at any point, I imagine the snap count to heavily favor Pollard, who's able to give them many dynamic plays out of the backfield. I think the under on Ezekiel Elliott's rushing is a smart bet to take for this one. Then I'm going to take the under 2.5 touchdowns thrown for Dak Prescott. I understand he had a fantastic week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yes, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You want to know who he's not facing this week? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Especially on the fact that this is a short week. They played Monday night, then they got to go right back at it on Sunday with the travel in between. This scenario does not set up that well for Dak Prescott going up against the #1 defense in the league, who saw him last postseason. 2.5 is just a lot to ask for against that #1 defense. So I'm going to take the under on Dak Prescott passing touchdowns. But I am going to take the over on Dalton Schultz receiving yards. We saw him have a breakout game last week. I called that breakout game last week because when you need those easy completions and they're playing defenses and you need to find those holes, Dalton Schultz is the perfect guy that we know Dak Prescott trusts. The only reason you didn't see bigger stats from him this year was because he was injured, and then there was the period where Dak was out of the lineup, but then finally they got things going towards the end of the year. Had a huge breakout last week. I'm going to look for him to continue that. Niners play some zones. Dalton Schultz is a prime candidate over the middle to hit some of those or potentially up the seam. I'm going to take the over on his receiving yards. And then lastly, I'm going to go to the Niners' best weapon. The total's too low for my liking. You saw how he was a massive weapon against the Cowboys last year in that playoff game. I'm going to go with the over on receiving yards for Deebo Samuel. I was worried last week, maybe is it going to be slow to get him back into the offense, re-ingratiated with the offense, but no, they used him in all different facets of the game. They used him out of the backfield. He had like 30 rushing yards, and then he had a ton of receiving yards. He had a long receiving touchdown. He's obviously, him and McCaffrey, their best two weapons. You imagine they're going to give him a couple throws behind the line of scrimmage and allow him to just make his own way out there, and he's so dynamic. I swear to you, one catch it might be all you need on this one. So I'm going to take the over on Deebo Samuel receiving yards. And those are some of my favorite selections for the Pick'em contest on this Sunday during the divisional round of the playoffs. But you want to know something? You can get free projections for this contest, and it's offered by no one else other than Stokastic. Go over to stokastic.com and check out the free projections and optimal lineups that they offer for the Pick'em contest and other No House Advantage contests. It's free. And as they say, the best things in life are free, so you should definitely go check those out. I will be back with you to talk versus the house as we try to net up to 21 times our money, so be on the lookout for that video. Subscribe to the Stokastic DFS channel and Odd Shopper channels, and I will be back with you soon. Take it easy.